Fact 1. Mary Bell was born to Betty, a 16-year-old prostitute who reportedly told doctors to take that thing away from me when she saw her daughter. Some attribute the accidents to Betty's determination to rid herself of an encumbrance, while others see the symptoms of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Betty longed for the attention and sympathy her daughter's accidents brought her. According to later accounts given by Mary herself, her mother began to prostitute her out when she was just 4 years old, although this remains uncorroborated by family members. Fact 2. In her work as a prostitute, Betty Bell specialized in playing the role of a dominatrix, as well as other BDSM roles which mixed violence with sex. Betty would perform violent acts with and for her clients, and Mary almost certainly bore witness to this behavior. It was reported by family members that Betty tried to kill Mary on a couple of occasions, and Mary once tried to take enough sleeping pills to overdose. Mary Bell herself was subjected to sexual assault, which began at age 5. Mary was being as a pre-teen prostituted to support the family. Fact 3. 4 weeks before her first murder, Mary Bell had been acting strangely. On May 11, 1968, Mary had been playing with a 3-year-old boy when he was badly injured in a fall from the top of an air raid shelter. His parents thought it was an accident. The following day, however, 3 mothers came forward to tell police that Mary had attempted to choke their young daughters. A brief police interview and a lecture resulted, but no charges were filed. Fact 4. Then on May 25, the day before she turned 11, Mary Bell strangled 4-year-old Martin Brown to death in an abandoned house in Scotswood, England. She left the scene and returned with a friend, Norma Bell, no relation, to find they'd been beaten there by 2 local boys who had been playing in the house and stumbled on the body. Police were mystified. Besides a little blood and saliva on the victim's face, there were no obvious signs of violence. There was, however, an empty bottle of painkillers on the floor near the body. In the absence of better information, they assumed Martin Brown had swallowed the pills. His death was ruled an accident. Fact 5. On July 31, 2 months after the first murder, Mary Bell and her friend Norma killed 3-year-old Brian Howe by strangulation. This time, Bell mutilated the body with scissors, scratching his thighs and butchering his penis. The family received a shock when the coroner's report came back. As Brian's blood had cooled, new marks appeared on his chest. Someone had used a razor blade to scratch the letter M onto his torso. Fact 6. On the day of Brian's burial, Mary was spotted lurking outside his house. She even laughed and rubbed her hands together when she saw his coffin. Fact 7. The police called her back for a second interview, and Mary, perhaps sensing investigators were closing in, made up a story about having seen an 8-year-old boy hit Brian on the day he died. The boy, she said, had been carrying a pair of broken scissors. That was Mary Bell's big mistake. The mutilation of the body with scissors had been kept from the press and the public. It was a detail known only to investigators and one other person, Brian's murderer. Fact 8. At trial, the prosecutor told the court that Bell's reason for committing the murders was solely for the pleasure and excitement of killing. Meanwhile, the British press referred to her as evil born. The jury agreed that Mary Bell had committed the murders and handed down a guilty verdict in December. Manslaughter, not murder, was the conviction, as court psychiatrists had convinced the jury that Mary Bell showed classic symptoms of psychopathy and could not be held fully responsible for her actions. Fact 9. Mary Bell spent 9 years in jail before briefly escaping from an adult prison. She was caught soon after and served another 2 years before being released in 1980. At age 23, she would be free to start a new life. A few years later, Mary Bell became pregnant and gave birth to a child on May 25, 1984, exactly 16 years after she murdered Martin Brown, although some wondered if she should be able to keep her child given her violent history. The uproar resulted in nothing as Bell was able to keep and raise her child. Fact 10. Law officials later revealed Bell's residence and new identity. after which her daughter started becoming aware of Belle's past. She went to court in 2003 and was granted a court order protecting the lifelong anonymity of herself and her daughter. The protections also extend to her granddaughter.